Rachel Zegler's career has been marked by a consistent pattern of behavior that has sparked both admiration and controversy. She first gained recognition when she was cast in Steven Spielberg's adaptation of West Side Story. At the time, she presented herself as a strong advocate for proper representation of Puerto Ricans in Hollywood, championing the film as an authentic portrayal of their culture. However, this stance quickly became problematic when actual Puerto Ricans pointed out that Zegler herself is not Puerto Rican. Despite this, she dismissed the criticism, arguing that the film was still an improvement over previous representations. This approach to identity politics has followed Zegler throughout her career, becoming more evident when she was cast as Snow White in Disney's upcoming live-action remake. Almost immediately, she took a controversial stance on the classic 1937 animated film, openly criticizing its themes and messaging. She described the original story as outdated and problematic, particularly focusing on the idea that Snow White's happily ever after revolves around a prince saving her with a kiss. She dismissed the original film as something that scared her as a child and expressed her dissatisfaction with the classic princess archetype, portraying it as an outdated relic of a bygone era. Her comments sparked backlash almost immediately, with fans of the original film feeling alienated and disrespected. The criticism was not just from die-hard Disney fans, but also from general audiences who saw her remarks as unnecessary and dismissive of the story that helped establish Disney as a household name. As the backlash mounted, Zegler's approach to damage control seemed inconsistent. Initially, she doubled down on her statements, positioning herself as the victim of misogyny and online harassment. She claimed that she was being unfairly targeted by men who simply couldn't handle a modernized version of the character. Her stance painted her as a martyr for progressiveness, further alienating those who disagreed with her perspective. However, as time passed, it became apparent that this strategy was not working. With public perception turning against her, Zegler began walking back her comments. She suddenly became a devoted fan of Snow White, claiming that the role was a lifelong dream and an incredible honor. She spoke about the prestige of playing such an iconic character and tried to present herself as someone deeply appreciative of the opportunity. This attempt at damage control seemed to be an effort to salvage both her reputation and the film's reception. Despite this pivot, media coverage of Zegler remained mixed. Some journalists continued to paint the backlash against her as a result of bigotry, framing her as a victim of internet hate campaigns. However, others pointed out the inconsistencies in her statements and how her attempts to rehabilitate her image seemed disingenuous. The media at times seemed to be enjoying the spectacle of her self-inflicted PR disaster, providing her with platforms that only seemed to further expose her contradictions. A notable example of this was during an interview where she was asked about her previous comments regarding Snow White. Instead of addressing them directly, she shifted the narrative, describing the backlash as evidence of how passionate people are about Disney films. This abrupt shift in messaging raised eyebrows, as it starkly contrasted with her earlier statements, where she had dismissed fans as misogynistic or outdated for defending the original movie. Now, rather than antagonizing the audience, she attempted to frame them as deeply invested individuals whose concerns were valid. The irony of this reversal was not lost on many, as just months earlier, she had taken an entirely different tone. The way Zegler's situation unfolded was also revealing of a broader issue within Hollywood. There is a growing trend where actors and filmmakers approach legacy properties with disdain, acting as though they are above the material they have been hired to represent. Rather than respecting the source material and its fan base, they take a deconstructionist approach, tearing down beloved classics in favor of a modern reimagining. While this might appeal to a niche audience, it frequently alienates the core fan base and leads to widespread backlash. In Zegler's case, her initial approach was one of complete dismissal of Snow White as a valuable piece of cinematic history, only to later backtrack when she realized the extent of the negative response. Her PR issues are not unique, as many actors recently have faced similar struggles. However, what makes her case particularly interesting is how transparent the entire process has been. Every attempt to pivot her image has been met with scrutiny, and each time she tries to adjust her narrative, it only further exposes the inconsistencies. The media's role in this has been notable, as they initially framed the backlash against her as unwarranted and fueled by bigotry. But as time passed, even they could not ignore the contradictions in her statements. One lesson that can be drawn from Zegler's experience is the importance of consistency in public messaging. Notable actors should consider how they present themselves in relation to the material. Disparaging a beloved property while promoting its remake is rarely a successful strategy, as it alienates the audience that is most likely to support the film. Hollywood has repeatedly made this mistake, with other actors and directors succumbing to similar pitfalls when managing franchises with established fan bases. Interestingly, some actors have learned from these missteps. Brie Larson, for example, faced significant backlash during the press tour for Captain Marvel due to her outspoken comments that were perceived as dismissive of certain audience members. Over time, she adjusted her public approach, becoming more reserved in interviews and avoiding the type of inflammatory statements that initially put her at odds with some viewers. Whether this was a genuine change or simply a strategic move to protect her career is up for debate, but the shift was noticeable. In contrast, Zegler's handling of her PR challenges has been far less smooth, making her missteps even more glaring. With the release of Snow White drawing closer, the question remains whether Disney will be able to overcome the negative publicity surrounding the film. While marketing efforts may attempt to refocus the conversation on the positives of the movie, Zegler's past statements will likely continue to be a point of contention. Audiences have long memories, especially when it comes to franchise properties. They hold dear. If Disney fails to win back public trust, Snow White may struggle to perform at the box office, adding yet another misfire to the studio's recent string of live-action remakes. Ultimately, the situation surrounding Rachel Zegler serves as a case study in modern celebrity culture and the impact of social media on public perception. In an era where every comment and interview is scrutinized, authenticity and consistency have become more important than ever. Zegler's fluctuating stance on Snow White has made her a controversial figure, and while she may still have a successful career ahead of her, the lessons from this ordeal will likely follow her for years to come. Whether she learns from this experience or continues down the same path remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Hollywood and its audiences will be watching closely. So, let's continue. This is where it gets even funnier. She says, "Oh, it was a beautiful experience watching young black girls see Halle Bailey helm the live-action Little Mermaid in 2023. In an interview, she also stated, "I understand that the community doesn't want to be seen as a monolith, but the reality of being Latino and working in this industry is that we try to represent the entire diaspora. Yeah, that's what I actually want to get into because I researched her, and it's hilarious." She says, "I know where I've been. I represent my narrative, and I carry it in my heart every day. This is where Jose Ramirez... Oh, God. Yeah, this is where Jose Ramirez came in. I went and did some research, and this woman is not actually fully Colombian. Her grandmother on her mother's side immigrated to the USA from Colombia, which means her mother, Rachel Zegler's mother, was born in America. Her father is of Polish descent, so he too is American. So, you have two parents born and raised in America who gave birth to Rachel Zegler. So how is she going on about saying, 'Oh, I represent all these Latinos. I am Colombian'? For all we know, the most Rachel Zegler is half Colombian. Atiwa. The very least, she's a quarter Colombian. She's not even fully Latina. She's half white. So, her whole spiel about victimizing herself, about saying, 'Oh, I'm just a poor little Latina, and I've experienced racism as a child.' It's like, did you really? I have never heard her refer to herself as Polish, not once, in any interview. Yet, she calls herself Latina all the time. She did do one interview where she said, I am a white Latina, so I have privilege, and I need to learn that. But even then, she spun it to, so you need to give me the roles because I'll get the roles easier, and then I can open the door for Latinos. As if they were some kind of disabled people in wheelchairs. The way she framed it was really weird. Whatever gives her the benefit of getting a role seems to be what she says in any interview. And it's always spun to, you have to hire me because that'll help all these innocent people over here. It's the same with this entire ideology. It's pitched as, I have empathy for everyone else, but the empathy is always filtered through their bank balance. It's just insane to me that she would go on this whole brigade about victimizing herself when her entire story is a lie. She reminds me so much of, what's that Star Wars show that flopped? Oh yeah, The Acolyte. Yeah, and I just heard your reaction. Yeah, exactly, that character is the exact same. Isn't her family like half Dutch? She's half Dutch, right? Half European? It's the same thing. They always refer to the side that will give them a benefit in Hollywood. Every time. Rachel Zegler is even worse, though. If you go through her history, she is a true believer. I think she got known for doing this stuff on YouTube first. She's always been pitching this stuff since she was a little kid. Didn't she do some kind of inauguration thing? Wasn't she a speaker for something? Yeah, she's young, but she's been around for many years. And now she's trying to use that as an excuse, going, well, you can't criticize things I said when I was 16. It's like, yeah, but you're still saying the same things now. Your views haven't changed. If you said, I was misguided back then, but I've grown, maybe people would listen. But she hasn't. These two chicks are both insane, but what's ironic is how she's coming around now, saying, oh, everyone has passion for this film. We're not always going to have the same feelings. It's like somebody at Disney sat her down and said, you need to shut up. Stop saying stupid things that make us look bad. They are probably like, Rachel, stop talking. You're hurting us. Oh, that's why the election was funny. She just couldn't resist. It was too big of a thing for her. Yeah, she broke. Remember during the strikes? If I'm going to spend 18 hours in a Disney princess dress, then I need to be paid for every hour that it's streamed online. That doesn't sound like someone who's honored to be in the role? No, it's not. The attitude should have been, I would have done this for free. It's an honor to be a Disney princess. Instead, she spit all over it. Anyway, shout out Rachel Zegler. So Kay, you're very unfamiliar with her, right? What's your take on Rachel Zegler? She just sounds like an obnoxious, grifting woman who wants victim points to feel important. That's all I'm getting from this. She wants to feel like a cultural warrior. Be like, look at me. I'm important. These fans are harassing me. It's not that they have a problem with the way she disrespects the things they love. No. Now she's saying, you guys are just passionate, because she knows she went too far. She keeps pushing the I'm Latina and proud narrative when it benefits her. It's just a mess. This chick is a mess. This is why I don't pay attention. To her, she doesn't even live by what she preaches. She spoke about her relationship with her boyfriend, or husband, I forget. And it's actually super traditional. She said multiple times, when I leave Hollywood, I'm going to a farm with my boyfriend and we're just going to have kids. That's the complete opposite of her public persona. Wait, what? That's completely traditional. She's just LARPing for Hollywood. And is her boyfriend white? Because this happens so often, it's always evil white men, and then you check and they're dating a white guy. Yeah, it's one of her co-stars from West Side Story and The Hunger Games. There's a video on set of him walking over to her and she just melts. She turns into a different person completely. It's weird. His name is Josh Andres Rivera. I don't know. He might be mixed, like half Latino. Oh yeah, but it's irrelevant. It just happens constantly. Minorities trash white people, but then they date a white guy. It's so hypocritical. And then she says she's going to a farm to have kids? That's completely traditional. It's so funny because she tries to make it seem like she had this rough immigrant struggle. But she's not even first generation. Her parents were born in America. She has no struggle. She's an American woman, born and raised here. That's it. Oh, and apparently, she used to spend a lot of time in a playground when she was younger. What do you mean? Oh no, it just reminded me of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air intro. Born and raised in a playground is where I spent most of my days. Oh my God, I was just like, what is he implying? Is this some weird UK playground joke I don't get? No, I was just making a reference. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to have you stick around.